Josh Robin, this is a Spectrum News special report on the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The president is now speaking on recovery efforts from the White House. Let's listen in.
120 miles an hour in some places. Storm surges up to 15 feet and record flooding. Communities are devastated. Loved ones waiting, not sure if their loved ones are okay, and they can't contact them because there's no cell phone connections. Many more folks displaced with no idea when they'll be able to be returned to the home, if ever there's a home to return to. So we're keeping them all in our prayers, and all the lives lost, and those particularly unaccounted for. There's nothing like wondering, is my husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father alive? And many more who remain without electricity, water, food, and communications. Whose homes and businesses have washed away in an instant. I want them to know we're not leaving until the job is done. I also want you to know I'm committed to traveling to the impacted areas as soon as possible, but I've been told that it would be disruptive if I did it right now. We will not do that at the risk of diverting or delaying any of the response assets needed to deal with this crisis. My first responsibility is to get all the help needed to those impacted areas. And I expect to be there. Excuse me, I have a cold. I expect to be there later this week. I and my team are in constant contact with the governors, mayors, and local leaders. The head of FEMA, Deanne Griswold, is on the ground now in North Carolina. She's going to stay in Asheville and Appalachia region for the foreseeable future. There's been reports of over 100 dead and consequence of this storm, and there are reports of up to 600 people unaccounted for because they can't be contacted. God willing, they're alive, but there's no way to contact them because of the lack of cell phone coverage. I've directed my team to provide every available resource as fast as possible to your communities to rescue, recover, and to begin rebuilding. In addition to FEMA, it includes the Federal Communications Commission to help establish communications capability, the National Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Department of Defense are going to provide all the resources at its disposal to rescue and assist in clearing debris and delivering life-saving supplies. So far, that's over 3,600 personnel deployed. That number is growing today. I quickly approved requests from governors of Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Virginia and Alabama for an emergency declaration. I approved additional requests for the governors of North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, and for a disaster declaration to pay for debris removal and provide financial assistance directly to survivors. FEMA and the Small Business Administration are there to help the residents whose homes and businesses were literally destroyed, washed away, or blown away. And the federal search and rescue teams have been working side by side with state and local officials and partners in very treacherous conditions to find those who are missing. And they'll not rest until everyone's accounted for. I want to thank all the first responders, everyone who's been working around the clock. One of the brave teams who's volunteered to be there is from San Diego County Fire Department, set to travel all the way from California to North Carolina to help. But on their way, they were in a terrible car accident in Louisiana. We pray for their full recovery, but it was a bad accident. We know there's more to do. We'll continue to surge resources, including food, water, communications, and life-saving equipment. We'll be there, as I said before, and I mean it, as long as it takes to finish this job. Let me close with this. As president, I've seen firsthand the devastating toll that disasters like this take on families and communities. I've been on the ground in many disaster areas since I've been president. Excuse me, and I've heard dozens of stories from survivors about how it feels to be left with nothing, not even knowing where or when to get back on track. I'm ready to tell every single survivor in these impacted areas that we will be there with you as long as it takes. For the sake of yourselves, and your families, I urge everyone returning to their communities to listen to the local officials and follow all safety instructions. Take this seriously. Please be safe. Your nation has your back, and the Biden-Harris administration will be there until the job is done. God bless you all, and I'm thinking of those that are still wondering where your loved ones are. Thank you.
I need to supplemental to help the people in the Southeast, Mr. President?
Say again?
We need to ask Congress for a supplemental.
That's my expectation, yes.
You know roughly how much you're thinking?
Not yet. This is a historic storm. It's devastating. They've never seen anything like this before. And some of them are back-to-back, 3 storms in a row. So it's really, really devastating.
Would you have consider asking Congress to come back for a special session to pass a supplemental?
That is something I may have to request, but no decision's been made yet.
Do you have a sense of where you go when you are able to go, sir?
Yes, I told the governor of North Carolina to go down, and I expect to be down there by Wednesday or Thursday. It would be clear for me to go. You guys have traveled with me. You know, there's an entourage. This can be disruptive.
Is there a mistake for President Trump to be down there today in Georgia? Is that disruptive?
I don't have any idea.
On another issue, on the other side of the world in the Middle East, it's our understanding...
I'm going to stick with this.
What's that?
I'm going to stick with this subject, but go ahead.
Well, it's just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plan?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
Do you expect Iran to retaliate?
On the hurricane, Mr. President, why weren't you and Vice President Harris here in Washington commanding this weekend?
I was commanding. I was on the phone for at least 2 hours yesterday and the day before as well. I command. It's called a telephone.
Is it
all my security people?
Is it not important for the country to see?
All right, you just heard President Biden say that the full resources of the federal government will go to helping people impacted by Hurricane Helene. Quote, "We're not leaving until the job is done," and the president said. At least 100 people so far have died as this storm cut a historic, devastating path across several states, and rescue and recovery efforts are hampered by still dangerous conditions and very limited cell service in places. Joining me now is Spectrum News Washington, D.C. reporter Angie Gonzalez. But let me start with Spectrum's Angie Angers, who's live from Treasure Island, Florida. To you both, thank you so much for being here. Angie Angers, I'll start with you. Just please tell us the situation where you are.
This is an area, Josh, that really just saw some historic storm surge and historic flooding that the area is not used to. Of course, Pinellas County and its 19 miles of beautiful beaches. You're probably used to hearing Treasure Island Beach, maybe Johns Pass or Clearwater Beach. All in this area, very seriously impacted by at least 7 feet of storm surge that just washed through the center of some of these buildings. So I want to give you a live look this afternoon at what exactly it is that people are dealing with here on Treasure Island. We are right near the heart of the city, and you can see people entire lives, everything they have here sitting out on the side of the curb. We are on a side street off of kind of the heart of that downtown area, and we've been watching as people are working their way out of a apartment building and just piling and piling on just everything. It's certainly been a sad situation, one we saw during Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers, one we saw during Hurricane Idalia up near the Big Bend. But here, this is something that, yes, we've seen some flooding in this Pinellas County, Barrier Island, Treasure Island area, but nothing to this extent. A few minutes ago, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis spoke, and he said really right now they're in the stabilization and the power restoration portion of this recovery effort, and they're moving away from those search and rescue efforts. But in this area alone, we had 9 deaths during the hurricane, 11 in all in the state of Florida. Just a very serious situation that, as you can tell, people are still very much working through and will be for the coming weeks and even months. Josh.
Angie, just sticking with you for one moment, can you describe what that would be normally like in normal times where you are? Behind you is just a scene of wreckage, and I can only imagine for a lot of people it would be kind of paradise being right on the water there.
It hurts my heart, Josh. I live just 2 miles from here. It is a beautiful, quaint, fun beach town. I mean, this is the center of the action, especially when you get into that busy tourist season, really starting right around Thanksgiving. You will see these streets packed. There's lines of beach bars. If you head just over this road here called Gulf Boulevard, lines of beach bars, hotels out there. A lot of them have had their foundations badly cracked, badly damaged. Our crews aren't even safe enough to head over there at this point. Some homes have kind of fallen into sinkhole type structures, and that just proves how much water really got underneath the homes here and are causing the structural damage. And this is an area that isn't going to look like itself for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, breaks my heart as well. So many areas of the country really devastated. Angie Andrews, hold on for 1 second. We're going to turn to Angie Gonzalez and talk about what we just saw at the White House. The president talked about visiting, and we got a question that I thought wasn't entirely fair about why he hasn't visited already. What are his plans to visit this week?
Well, he mentioned during the question and answer portion of that press conference, Josh, that he plans on visiting Wednesday or Thursday, planning on visiting North Carolina, already saying that he spoke with the governor, Cooper, about his plans to go there. But really what he wants to make sure is that his visit doesn't impede in the recovery efforts. He explained, that they come with a big entourage, the White House does, and certainly they don't want any resources to go to them that could be going to help rescue people in the states that have been affected by this. Josh.
And similarly, the presidential candidates, how are they handling the situation? As you mentioned, the president certainly, and the candidates as well, particularly in this dangerous time, really travel with a lot of security that might be better, blocking off roads or getting people back to their homes and so on.
Yeah, well, former President Donald Trump is not heeding that sort of caution. He is actually visiting Georgia today. His campaign says that he's going to be briefed on the situation on the ground in Georgia in terms of damage, but was unclear exactly who would be giving him that briefing. We do know that Harris did extend her sympathies, as did Trump during campaign events yesterday. But Harris saying she also plans on visiting, did not give a specific state, but says she plans on visiting some of the areas affected by this disaster, but also mentioning that little note that the president did that he won't be going and she won't be going until they know that it's not going to impede or take resources away from the recovery effort. Josh.
Angie Andrews, let's go back to you about this. What do you think is top of people's minds right now as they're just getting really indications of what's happened? First of all, are people back, or are they back after evacuating?
That's a good question, Josh. Right now, it is residents only with re-entry passes and also construction companies